It was the late 1950s and Ireland was preparing for its first television service. The then Archbishop of Dublin, John Charles McQuaid, felt it wise for the new national broadcasting station to have religious advisors for its programming. So he sent some priests to New York for training. Instead of advising, however, the priests became filmmakers themselves, and the Radharc documentary film unit was born.
Fair day in an Irish town. The market square is jammed to capacity.
What followed was a series of religious affairs documentary films that became part of the fabric of Irish broadcasting for more than 4 decades.
The heart, centre of the fair is where the animals are. They are privileged today, and they make the most of it, little suspecting that it may be the deference that's shown to the condemned, the last breath of freedom before the slaughterhouse and the block.
If you come in that way best, I want to look at the best. You go around the best. Well, if she'll suit you, you'll buy her. Well,
but still, aren't there things about a beast that you mightn't be able to see for yourself, but still could be wrong? Would you agree with that?
Yes, of course.
And do you think that a man selling stuff at the fair has a duty to try and own up and admit the defects of his animal?
Why not?
Do they do that?
Some do, more don't.
There are very few.
From the beginning, Radharc was noted for its innovative approach. The films were hugely popular with audiences and critics alike for both their charm and authenticity.
I don't know whether you're going to like what we have on offer tonight, but one way or another, it should help to make you more thankful for some of the ordinary things of life.
Poverty takes many forms and exists in many degrees. Modern society has banished poverty to this extent that no one need die of hunger anywhere in Dublin today. Even the most destitute knows that he'll get enough food to keep alive, and that is something for those who have nothing else. And there are those who have nothing else, no home, no work, no income, no prospects of any kind. The clothes they wear have been cast off by others. They are unemployed and unemployable. They are studied by sociologists, watched by police, surveyed by statisticians, condemned by the righteous and given alms by the soft-hearted.
Well, do you believe in an afterlife now, that when you die there'll be
I believe I'll die and I'll close my eyes and it'll get dark and I'll be put down in a hole and I'll rot and there'll be no more about me.
How do you look forward to that?
Well, it doesn't cost me at all. I say, I wouldn't mind if it happened tomorrow. I think I'd be better off. I definitely know that.
The Radharc team produced more than 400 documentaries from 75 different countries.
The parish priest of West Pocot is Father Leo Staples, a Kiltegan father from County Wexford. The knife that is used for cutting sugarcane is about 18 inches long, with a sharp cutting edge and a strong, broad blade. It needs to be sharp and strong because on the island of Negros, with its rich soil and tropical climate, the sugarcane grows thick and tall, often to a height of 10 or 12 feet, and it takes strength as well as skill to cut it. The sugar knife also makes a very formidable and effective weapon. The Filipino sugar worker is a man of violent emotions, and hardly a day goes by in Negros without at least one case of fatal stabbing. So far, they've confined their violence to one another, but their knives are restless, and it's not difficult to see the day coming when they'll choose a different target.
The man might not be able to buy 3 packs of this, but he's given a free house, free light, free water, free education for his children up to 7th grade. All of that comes in as fringe benefit. He has all the land around him to till.
This is provided presumably by a good haciendero, but there must be many hacienderos who do not.
The majority are that way. Maybe a small percentage. Look that. Oh, excuse me, I got a long distance from Manila, Father.
The word Radharc means view or vision, and the logo of an apostle from the Moon High Cross, the Radharc Man, symbolised the programmes, looking out over the centuries on the changing scene at home and abroad.
This is the border region between Thailand and Burma, a jungle area with few roads, inhabited by a number of ethnically distinct peoples. The Karen, the Mon, the Kachin, and the Shan. All the forest peoples have been fighting the lowland Burmese since the British left 40 years ago. they still have hope of maintaining some political and cultural independence. In recent times, however, they've lost all their fortified bases to the Burmese military. The reasons are interesting. Two years ago, damaging floods in Thailand were blamed on the destruction of the Thai rainforest. In response to public outcry, the government ordered an end to logging in Thailand. But at the same time, the Thai government paid handsomely for the right to destroy large areas of rainforest in Burma and keep their own sawmills working.
If you talk about prisoner rights, people think you're going soft on prisoners and that somehow you're making life easier for them and you're making life tougher for victims. I don't accept that. I mean, I think that both people have needs and rights, but both are human beings. They both are individuals. Both the victim and the offender are individuals under our Constitution, and they are both, as human beings, entitled to have each their own needs met in their own way. And I think it's part of the problem that at the moment we live in a community which is very hostile to prisoners and perceives everything they get as somehow being gained at the expense of the wider community, not realising that every time we do something good, decent and humane for prisoners, we're actually buying ourselves, in general, a better community.
When I asked the taxi man who took me from the airport to Havana how Christmas was, he replied curtly, "Here there is no Christmas." There are no stories of priests being arrested here in Cuba today, unlike other right-wing Latin American dictatorships. But there is a detectable climate of fear running through Catholic circles. Perhaps Article 54 of the Revolutionary Constitution nourishes that fear and inhibits any criticism of the regime by Catholics when it says it is an offence and punishable by law to oppose one's faith or religious belief to the revolution.
Radharc covered a wide range of subjects. They followed the efforts of Irish missionaries abroad and searched out the stories of the Irish diaspora.
Anybody from Ireland here?
All of us father.
Where are you from?
Dublin.
And you?
Mayo.
Have you been long in Inwood?
11 years.
Are you married here?
Yes.
Did you marry an Irishman?
I did. He's from Galway.
Why do you think so many Irish people marry one another, marry Irish?
I don't know.
They admire the Irish. They admire the Irish.
You're not Irish yourself, are you?
My name is Hardwick. It is an English name, but I have an Irish grandmother, and my wife's name is Murphy, so that balances the books.
Now, a doctor or a lawyer will not lose his home to a Negro, but a construction worker or a train man will, and they're the ones who could lose their jobs to a Negro. So they're very, so they have strong animosities, and these are these pent-up emotions let out in many different ways. For example, if a Negro walks into a bar, he'll be beaten up by a mob. Certain of these areas around here.
Well, in fact, they don't seem to go into the bars at all.
They don't. They keep out, and they go down to their own, I guess, in Harlem or something for their time. But again, and another problem is most of the Negroes who do move in here are the middle class of the Negro community, and they're on their way up, and they're really not too much interested in causing trouble. So in actuality, the Irish are afraid of a ghost.
Mrs. Catherine Ryan is the teacher. Mrs. Ryan, could I have a look at the list of names and see if I recognise some of them? There's Devon Riley, Sherilyn Ryan, Joanne Burke. Let's try some of the names. What's your name?
Eugene Fleming.
Eugene Fleming. Is that right?
Eugene Fleming.
Good man, Eugene. And what's yours?
Sean Castle.
Sean Castles. And what's yours?
Jerome Mead.
Jerome Mead.
Jack's casket was at the White House in the, not in the White House, in the Rotunda in Washington, as I knelt there. And then again, Bobby's casket was on the, it was in St. Patrick's Cathedral. And again, I stood there as the Blessed Mother had stood at the time of the crucifixion.
You thought about this, actually, did you, at the time?
I knew she would give me the strength and the grace as I prayed there.
You mentioned that you found, you asked not only for the grace and strength, but also resignation.
Oh, yes, resignation. But because, of course, It was a time of great frustration. I spent all my life, 25, 30, 40 years of my life, bringing up these children so they'd be strong, honest, capable men, self-sacrificing, devout, and then and they're willing to work for humanity, eager to work, to give their talents, and then so it was difficult.
Radharc embraced an agenda of issues relating to broad matters of faith, spirituality, religious practice and values. As a result, the documentaries reflected the political and social issues of the day in Ireland and across the world.
This film is about people who labour under heavy burdens. It's also about others who are trying to lift some of the burden, and still others who are trying to prevent them. The Lord has sent me to bring good news to the poor, to proclaim liberty to captives, and to the blind new sight, to set the downtrodden free. That is subversive talk in Latin America.
But the message of Pueblo to the people of Latin America tells us that the option for the poor isn't a partial one.
Parcialización hacia los pobres no más, sino que es un llamamiento a todas las clases sociales.
It calls on all the social classes to interest themselves in the poor as though it was their own cause.
Radharc had something to say, and it did so with courage and commitment.
Since the 1954 military coup,
the films confronted their audiences with stories of injustice and the challenges to peace they found in the world. They exposed stories of war, discrimination, religious persecution, human rights abuses, starvation.
And we are serving not the government or the army, we are serving the ordinary civilian population, the women and the children who are starving and who are depending on our food. We believe that these children have a right to live. They have committed no crime. They know nothing about ideas like economic blockade, secession or independence. All they know is that they are very, very hungry and they need food and need it urgently.
All over Biafra, people are waiting, listening for the sound of the engines, the sound that brings terror by day, hope by night. In their hour of trial, they know that they have not been completely forgotten by the rest of the world. They know that men have died in order that they may live. Perhaps the one solution to their problems, a just and lasting peace, is nearer than it seems. In the meantime, for all its inadequacy, the night flight to Uli remains a beacon of light and hope in one of the darkest places of the world.
Over the past 21 years, nearly 3,000 people have died in the Northern Ireland Troubles. Popes, bishops and clergy of all denominations have begged the men of violence to stop. Yet despite all the appeals, the death and destruction continue. Within this clerical chorus, there are, however, some who say condemnation is not enough. One must help people come out from under the paramilitary influence and tradition. One must listen to their grievances and help them get expressed. Because violence is the child of anger, and anger grows when no one listens. This is a film about anger in the Catholic nationalist community and the attempts of two priests, Raymond Murray and Dennis Fall, to help it to legitimate rather than paramilitary expression. It is not about Protestant unionist anger, which requires no explanation. That anger is a natural reaction to killing and destruction by the IRA.
I interviewed them privately in a chaplain's box. I made them take their clothes off so that I could see with my own eyes how badly they were bruised, and it was really terrible. I had seen the odd bruising on the football field or the hurling field, but here when I saw men whose backsides were completely black or forearms, very badly beaten, electric shocks had been used on some of them, amphetamine drugs, a lot of psychological torture as well, and just pure and open physical beatings.
There was this high-pitched noise, continuously a high-pitched noise. It was piped into this wee cell, like.
Between total disorientation and lack of food and water, and in one instance I was told that there was civil war going on and it was almost over, and where people, especially my family, had been murdered in Drumbreda.
It's a worldwide thing, torture, like, you know, it's sanctioned at most levels in most governments, and it's about time it has stopped.
The films were shown regularly on Irish television from Radharc's inception in 1961 until the death of founder-director Father Joe Dunn in 1996. And they inspired with stories of peace, harmony, hope.
Yeah, when I hold this little Jake and I say, "Oh, you are my beloved son," I say 25 times a day, then I recognize I've heard this before from the gospel, and God said the same word, "You are my beloved son," at the baptism in Jordan. And that teaches me that God feels the way I feel. To be a parent is to be God-like. It is, it's sacred.
The Radharc Trust is building on the legacy of achievement and excellence embodied in the documentary programmes, and is working to encourage others to follow Radharc's example. Through the promotion and preservation of the Radharc Archive, through the Radharc Awards, and through the support of special media projects, the Radharc Trust continues to stimulate challenging media works in the Radharc ethos.
If you have any views, why not send them to us at Radharc, that's Radharc. And if you haven't got the spelling yet, just watch this space. Good night.